I'm Mark.
And I'm Josh.
And this is Alter Ego Comics TV, episode number 169. We are from Alter Ego Comics, a comic shop in Lima, Ohio. And every week we read a bunch of new comics and tell you which ones we like best, with the hopes that you will go out to your local comic book store, or see us if we are your local comic book store, and pick up the good stuff, because it should be rewarded. So, first up for me is my pick of the week. It's Nailbiter number 3 by Joshua Williamson and Mike Henderson. This book has been awesome right out of the gate. 3 issues in, the first 2 issues have sold out a couple of different times. But good news, if you're local, we do have all 3 issues in stock right now. So there's no excuse for not trying out this really fun, scary, different series. To recap, you could also just go back and watch an episode from a month ago and then an episode from a month before that, because I talked about the previous 2 issues. There is a town in Colorado that has given birth to 16 of the world's worst serial killers, and there is a police person who's investigating why he ends up going missing after he calls a buddy to come, and he has a revelation to tell him. So the cop goes missing. His buddy, who's I think in military intelligence or was a CIA operative or something.
Yeah, he's on leave, but he's like in trouble for.
He's in trouble.
He went too far.
Yeah, he took an interrogation too far. I don't think we know exactly what he did. So you've got the outsider in town. It's a very small town. The sheriff actually used to date one of the serial killers
before they were a serial killer.
Before he was a serial killer,
Probably.
Called the Nailbiter. There's just a lot going on here that is really cool. It's not difficult to get into it. It's just a fun read. I mean, it's the book that I look forward to reading to the most when it's in my stack each month. And this issue did not disappoint. In fact, it added some elements that were really different.
Mm-hmm.
It was kind of a straight-up kind of horror police procedural type of thing, with a heavy dose of Law and Order. And now there may be a supernatural element that's introduced as well. So I don't know what's coming next. In the back of the book, Williamson mentions that just wait until we see who shows up as a guest star in issue number 7. I don't know what that means, but
I think it's Don Knotts.
I think it's the Incredible Mr. Limpet
Yes.
who will be there. Nailbiter is one of the best books being published right now. It's published by Image Comics. Again, if you can find the first 2 issues, grab those, pick up issue number 3, because this is really just an excellent read. And I should say the artwork by Henderson is amazing. He's quickly become one of my favorite new artists. I follow him on Twitter, and he's posting sketches every day and commissions and things like that, and he's just knocking it out of the park. Good stuff.
My pick of the week this week is Legendary Starlord number 1. This is written by Sam Humphries with art by Paco Medina, and this is a solo book featuring Starlord, star, or at least one of the stars of the upcoming Guardians of the Galaxy movie, and this is actually flagged from the pages of Guardians of the Galaxy, and we've got him wearing his movie costume on the cover and throughout the book. That's a weird coincidence, I think. But this is a lot of fun. It's no secret that I'm a big Guardians fan, but I really like the way they handled Quill in this. They made him interesting and cool, and it's a nice solo adventure that's believable, but we also get some background stuff, seeing him when he was younger, and we also get a little more play on his flirtation with Kitty Pryde, which was a lot of people's favorite part of the trial of Jean Grey recently when they crossed over with all new X-Men. So we've got, I don't even want to spoil it. It's a fun adventure thievy story. It's just light, fun, great comics. Space adventure, Star Wars, Marvel Universe, movie coming out. Check it out.
I think that describes it very well. I really enjoyed it as well. Was pleasantly surprised. Staying with the Guardians of the Galaxy, we have another new solo series from one of its members, Rocket Raccoon number 1. This is written and drawn by Scotty Young. Many of you may be familiar with Scotty Young from his kind of baby Marvel covers, as well as his work on the Oz books. This just kind of impressed me. I'm not a huge fan of Rocket by himself. I'm a fan of Rocket as a member of the Guardians of the Galaxy. And I think I kind of feel that way about all of the members of the team, of Guardians of the Galaxy. I don't think any of them is really strong on their own. Having said that, though, the Starlord issue was really good, too. So Rocket, we get to see a solo adventure with him, and Groot shows up for a little bit, and Rocket is like, if I had to put him in human terms, I'm trying to think of a character, it's like right there, and I can't get it. Help me out.
I'm not 100% sure what you're trying to say.
Rocket is a grifter. He's kind of that's not the character grifter
Right.
from the DC universe, but a grifter, much like Sawyer on Lost, or lots of different situations.
John Cusack in the movie Grifters.
Yes, where he's kind of a con artist, and he cracks wise, and he thinks he's the bomb, and we get to see that the way that he's treated people over the years may be coming back to bite him by the time we get to the end of the issue. So. While a lot of Scotty Young's work has been targeted at a younger audience, this is definitely a solid kind of PG-13 book, so just be aware of that. But it's fun, it's action-packed. Scotty Young's artwork is incredible, and he doesn't do a lot of interiors that are kind of mainstream stuff. Doing the Oz books takes up a lot of time, so it's nice to see him playing around in the Marvel Universe, and I'm on board for both Rocket Raccoon and Legendary Starlord.
Yeah, and what I thought was not weird, but unexpected about Scotty Young writes Rocket kind of like a gangster, like a 40s person. He has that kind of fast talking, and he uses, I don't know, it reminded me of like the old school Warner Brothers cartoons. How like Bugs and some of the other characters would use slang that was current when the shows were made in the 40s and 50s. So watching them now, it seems dated, but it's a very neat kind of, it's a very impactful version of Rocket that I haven't seen before. Next up, issue 2 of Dr. Spektor, Master of the Occult, written by Mark Waid, art by Neil Edwards. I liked the first issue, really liked this issue. So we're delving deeper into the weird world of TV star occultist Dr. Spektor, and it's sort of weird. It's like all Twilight Zone-y, and you're not sure what reality is, and people are jumping dimensions, or I don't even know what's going on, but I loved it. It was very, very cool. You have like time loops, and a lot of it focuses on his new assistant, who was charged at the end of the previous issue by his previous kind of body man to look after him right before that body man actually right after the body man died, and came to her as a ghost. So you've already got some freaky deaky stuff going on, and it just really kicked it up to the next level this time. You do get to see one of the other big Valiant characters in here, so we're already seeing them pulling the universes together, which is great. It's just fresh and new, and I like stories that I haven't read before.
All right, well, we have themes going on this week. So also by Mark Waid is Daredevil Road Warrior. This is Daredevil, I don't know if it's Daredevil Road Warrior .1 or just Daredevil .1, but of course Mark Waid is the regular writer on the Daredevil series. This has artwork by Peter Krause, and this stuff was originally published digitally, as showing how Matt Murdock / Daredevil gets from New York to San Francisco. So between the end of the previous series and the beginning of the current Daredevil series, I honestly don't know whether this is going to be more than just this. I should have researched that a little bit more. But it's a long story. It's definitely an oversized book. It also carries a $4.99 price tag, so it's got more pages than usual. But it picks up right as Matt and what's her, Kirsten or Kristen?
Not sure.
Help me out. Kirsten. His not girlfriend.
The former DA from New York, who's going to go. We know who ends up with him. And
so they're on a plane. They're supposed to be getting out to San Francisco, and Matt realizes that something's not right. The plane hits some turbulence, and that just drives him crazy because now every human on the plane's heartbeat is much faster than before. But he realizes that one person on the plane doesn't have a heartbeat. So he looks human, but what is he? And that's the mystery of Daredevil Road Warrior, is who is this person / thing? And it's really an emotional type of story. I don't want to give too much away, but if you're local and you want to talk about it later, I can compare it to a lot of other things. But if you're a Daredevil fan, this is a must-buy. Even though we're further along in the timeline of Daredevil being in San Francisco for a little while now, it's cool to see, the process of going from New York to San Francisco. So I really enjoyed it. The artwork by Peter Krause is very solid. The one thing it made me want, though, is a Daredevil series written by Mark Waid and drawn by Lee Weeks. So if Marvel could make that happen, I would appreciate it.
And what I always love about about Mark Waid's Daredevil, and is on display in this issue, is Waid gives him problems that only Daredevil could solve. I mean, if Spider-Man or Cyclops or Wolverine, maybe Wolverine was on that plane, there wouldn't be an adventure. He would have just gotten wherever they were going. And I think Wade's stories are better because of that. Next up, alright, so you all heard about Marvel's 100th anniversary, except you haven't because that's not a real thing. But Marvel has a series of books coming out this summer that are featuring its 100th anniversary. So 40, 30 some, depending on where you want to draw the line, where Marvel started and where it didn't. A number of years in the future, both our future and in the universe's future. And these are one-off tales, although there is allegedly some intersection. First one up we have is Fantastic Four #1, Marvel 100th Anniversary, written by Jan Van Meter with art by Joanna Estep. And this is really cool. We've got a version of the Fantastic Four in the future that is composed of no one who's in the Fantastic Four now, although they do have a Human Torch. It is not Johnny. You've got Trin Richards Banner and Kirby Richards Banner, siblings who, based on their pigmentation, are the children of Bruce Banner's son and Valeria Richards. Yes, Val Richards. So you've got the two Richards Banner kids. You've got Victoria Harkness, who appears to be Victoria Hand and Kristoff, Son of Doom's child, and then Lee Min Cam, who is the Human Torch, who they didn't give us anything to know exactly who he's from. But we get Valeria, I always never say her name right, is an older, obviously, at this point, and she's working kind of mission control or being like Oracle to the team as they go out and solve problems, investigate cosmic stuff. And they do an amazing job of setting up this complex future world with a bunch of stuff going on, and you can immediately tell which things matter and which things don't. And the things that matter are explained enough to appreciate the story, and the things that don't are just stuff that's out there. It's like in Star Trek when they use complicated technical metaphors that don't actually matter just to get you forward. And basically it's revolving around the fact that what happened to the original Fantastic Four, and Dr. Doom, because they all seem to have gone off the grid at the same time, and we get to see it. It's very cool. It's great. What's great about the Fantastic Four has always been about the emotional connection. It is truly a family, and we get to see that even in the future, stretched across time, and it was really quite an accomplishment to make me care about these characters that are just made up. I mean, I know all the Fantastic Four are made up, but I mean, these literally were invented in this issue, and I have no track record other than they're the grandson of someone I liked. But by the end of the issue, I cared about what happened to them. So I have a great deal of hope for the rest of the Marvel 100th Anniversary stuff, and I'm excited to see it.
All right, so those are our picks this week, our recommendations for the best of this week's books. There were many more to choose from, really lots of good stuff this week. As far as the top 5 list, we've had a couple requests from folks asking for a top 5 Hulk stories. So you're going to get your wish. We're talking about the top 5. Actually, I'm not even going to say top 5. We're just going to say our Hulk recommendations. And I think there will be 5-ish. So there are certain things that I'm leaving out, and I think part of it is also what our reading experience is. I wasn't reading Hulk in the early 1970s. I haven't gone back and read a lot of the stuff between issue, 180 and issue 300. So the Hulk for me started in the late 200s, although I'm very aware of Wolverine's first appearance in 180, 181. So if you're looking for earlier good Hulk stuff, you're not going to find it here. But the closest we're going to get is Hulk Gray by Jeff Loeb and Tim Sale, which is one of Marvel's color books, along with Daredevil Yellow and Spider-Man Blue and Captain America. Wait, no, that's not a thing. That didn't happen. It was supposed to. But Hulk Gray it's a Hulk. Is it Betty or Betsy? It's Betty.
Betty.
Yes, I want to say Betsy Ross.
And that's a different
seamstress.
Person. Yes.
It's a Hulk and Betty story. It's a Bruce and Betty story, and it's, as with all of the Loeb Sale Marvel color books, they're not so big on the action. They're more about the emotions and the relationships between the characters. So that's one of the reasons why it makes my list. It's just I love all those color books. You do too, I know. Anything else about Hulk Gray?
No, I mean, this is obviously, chronologically, the Hulk was gray in very, very early, so this is very, very early Hulk. I mean, It may be within the first...
I think it's first week.
Yeah, that he's been transforming. And it's kind of heartbreaking. All the color books are. But the Hulk one especially, because, with Daredevil Yellow and Spider-Man Blue, life is sad, but Peter got to be with Gwen, and they had a relationship that ended, and that's why it's sad. Matt and Karen had a relationship, even if it was pretty jacked up. They had lives, but really, especially at this point, the Hulk and Banner and Betty, there's not a real. It's like trying to have a relationship, and anyone reading now who's read the current continuity knows where that's going to go, and it's never a happy time. So it's even more kind of poignant than some of the other color books. So yeah, I love it. Next up, I guess we've got to go with the 800-pound gorilla, Planet Hulk, written by Greg Pak. Do you remember who did the art?
I don't.
Greg Pak was the mastermind of the Hulkverse for a very long time, for a number of years, and probably his best-known work is Planet Hulk, where essentially, for a calendar year, basically, the Hulk was off-planet, not interacting with any other Marvel Universe people. There weren't any cameos by Wolverine. It was just the Hulk on this foreign planet, and it was amazing. You've got the planet's tectology, or I don't know if it's a radiation thing, but the Hulk is smarter. He's not quite Banner smart, but he's intelligent and conversant, and he's also more vulnerable. His skin, he bleeds and he can be pierced, whereas on Earth, rocket mortars bounce off of him. And that's part of the reason we see him. Basically, he gets kicked off the planet by the Illuminati, Reed Richards, Frank? Reed Richards, Tony Stark, Doctor Strange, Black Bolt, Namor, probably somebody else. And they kick him off into space because he's just too dangerous. Every time he has a headache, he destroys Manhattan. So that's a very key point when he comes back for the next arc, which is World War Hulk, which was also good. But Planet Hulk is just a really great adventure fantasy story that's unique in that it's relatively self-contained. In the Marvel Universe. I mean, basically, other than the Hulk, and you get a cameo by the Silver Surfer for part of the book, it's entirely new characters, and it's just really, really great.
That's the beauty of it, is that it is a self-contained story. Mm-hmm. That it's not, you could argue that, it's the first chapter of, World War Hulk, or it leads directly into World War Hulk, and it does, but it can also be read on its own, and you never have to read anything Hulk ever again if you don't want to. Mm-hmm. So it's got great rereadability, and it's just ignore the animated movie that Marvel put out because it will make you fall asleep, and many things are not the same as they were in the comic. So, as in most cases, the comic is better.
Was it Better Ray Bill in the cartoon and not Silver Surfer?
I believe so.
Okay.
Yeah. For licensing reasons.
I'm sure.
Yeah. Okay. All right. I'm going to let you talk about the Peter David one, or the end. Do you remember the end?
The end? Oh, absolutely.
Okay, you talk about the end. And instead of doing 5, I think we're going to do 4, but I'm going to combine 3 of mine, and I have these.
And by 3 of mine, he means like 100 issues.
Pull these off of my personal collection from over this way. But there is a long stretch of Hulk storytelling that kind of starts shortly before issue 300, where Hulk and Banner get separated. And the Hulk without Banner is really just a mindless beast that cannot be contained and just gets stronger the madder he gets. And issue number 300 is one of my all-time favorite comics, not just favorite Hulk comics, but Hulk number 300 had this great cover of the Hulk taking on a bunch of New York heroes. So you had Daredevil and Spider-Man and Power Man and Iron Fist, and Doctor Strange is there, and some other folks. And basically, they all band together to stop the Hulk, who's on this rampage through New York City. And the only way to stop him is for Doctor Strange to send him into, I don't know if it's the Nightmare Realm, or if it's what dimension it is. I think it's the Nightmare Realm, where Nightmare lives.
Is that the one that Sleepwalker accesses?
Sleepwalker.
Oh.
It's the guy on a horse.
I know who Nightmare is. I was trying to think.
So by the end of 300, Hulk gets thrown into this other dimension, which I believe is the Nightmare Realm. And he spends, probably 10 or 12, maybe even 15 issues there, and you follow his adventures there. So you start with 300, and then you go into a little run by John Byrne, who does the writing and the art. And the Hulk is back on Earth, still separate from Banner. Banner is leading the Hulkbusters, trying to either destroy or capture the Hulk. And you have another knockdown, drag-out battle between the Hulk and the strongest of the Avengers. So you have Hercules, Namor, Iron Man, some other people, Wonder Man, who is pretty much Superman. Yeah. and the Vision, and so you had East Coast and West Coast Avengers at the time. Again, there were two different teams. They both kind of converged to take on the Hulk, and that was just a whole lot of good fun. And again, keep in mind, I was reading these when I was like 14, 15 years old, so I just thought this was awesome. So move down the road a little further, and you get to what is, kind of universally regarded as the best run on the Hulk, and that's Peter David's run. And Peter David wrote the Hulk for 7 years, I think.
Yeah, it was a long time.
It was longer than Greg Pak. I think Pak did it for 5 years. Peter David did it for about 7 years, and he started with, he's got the Gray Hulk, and Banner and the Hulk are back together again. The Gray Hulk has not become Mr. Fix-It yet at the beginning of Peter David's run. Todd McFarlane's doing pencils. It's the one where Wolverine, takes on the Hulk out in the wilderness. X-Factor is sent to take down the Hulk for some unknown reason,
because Peter David was writing it, and they were a government op at that point.
Yeah, when they were wearing their jumpsuits. And you get a little further down the road, Hulk sets himself up. He regains a lot of his faculties, and he gets set up as Mr. Fix-It in Las Vegas, who's basically a mob boss, thug type of character. But Peter David's run had so much greatness to it. I mean, that was just the beginning. You had the Hulk, basically reaching a peaceful point with Banner, where he had Banner's intelligence and was not a beast, and he was leading the Pantheon, which was a group of Greek heroes, and I have to go back and reread that, because I have to go back and check it out. Rick Jones was back in the picture. He was acting as his sidekick, and there was a lot of humor injected into the book as well, as you got further along in Peter David's run. So that was a whole heap and helping of Hulk, but basically start with issue 300 and go all the way through Peter David's run. The nice thing is that nearly all of that is available in trade paperbacks, so you can start with, there's actually Hulk Visionaries, Peter David, Volume 1 through 8, 7.
Yeah,
so I've
at
got
least
7. Well, I've got 1 through 7 on my shelf, but I think it goes further than that. And then there's a Hulk Visionaries John Byrne volume, and then Hulk versus the Marvel Universe has issue number 300 in it, as well as the Hulk fighting other characters from different issues in the Marvel Universe. So, okay, you're up.
Marvel had this thing going for a while where they would do end stories. Basically, they did Avengers: The End, which gave us long-haired, blind Hawkeye, which we saw again later in Wolverine.
Old Man Logan.
Old Man Logan, yeah. And one of the others in that same line was Hulk: The End, which was also written by Peter David. And it's the far future. Hulk is the world is basically destroyed. Hulk has become, he's calling himself the Maestro, and he's intelligent, and he's basically killed all the other heroes and taken over the world. And the story involves time travel and Rick Jones. But what's really compelling about it is, well, compelling might not be the right word. It's just so freaking cool. The Maestro has this great kind of trophy room where you see, Captain America's broken shield and Wolverine's adamantium skeletons in a case, and just all these symbols of different heroes that have been killed. And then you get the time travel stuff with Rick Jones, because Rick Jones is like the most important person in the Marvel Universe, apparently. He helped get the Avengers together, and he kept the Hulk in line. He saved us during the Kree-Skrull War, and somehow he's still not in the movies. What the hell?
What's up with that?
But yeah, Hulk: The End is a great theoretical Hulk story, and the Maestro is one of those characters that showed up in this one fictional tale and has since popped up again and again. If you go far enough in the future, you're going to find that the Hulk has killed everything, and he has a beard, and is now a bad guy. But just a great, great Hulk story.
I could be mistaken, but I think you might be mixing a couple Hulk stories together.
Okay.
Because there was a 2-issue prestige format series called Future Imperfect that introduced the Maestro.
Okay.
And that was Peter David and George Perez. And then Hulk: The End is Peter David and Dale Keown, and it is the end, it's the Hulk being the last one alive, and it's him and the cockroaches that are basically left on the planet.
Okay.
And it's the Hulk trying to figure his way, how to end his life, essentially, if I'm not mistaken. Okay. And I know we've got the end out on the floor in the store.
Maybe they were collected together.
They may have been collected
in
together
the same book. That might be why I've got them
If I'm not mistaken, Future Imperfect was the one that introduced the Maestro.
Okay.
And
my bad.
I don't think he even shows up in the end, but I could be wrong.
So you're saying the end takes place after the Hulk, after the Maestro stuff?
Yeah, it's like way down the road.
Okay.
I don't know. We'll check it out later. Either way, both of those stories are also
Future Imperfect is the one I meant then.
Future Imperfect and The End are both worth checking out. Again, the great thing about these Hulk stories is that if you want to check them out 99% of them are available in collected editions, so you'll be able to grab a trade paperback really easily and check those out. I have to say that I think Mark Waid's current run on Hulk is proving to be an interesting one. Not the series that ended, but the current series where Banner has the bullet stuck in his brain. And
well, even the previous one had a lot of really great stuff in it.
It's a great setup. So, bucking the odds, writers keep coming up with good Hulk stories to tell. So hopefully that will continue. And I know there's obviously renewed interest in the character because of his appearance in the Avengers, and Mark Ruffalo wants to do a solo Hulk movie, supposedly. But I guess it's not going to be Planet Hulk, so who knows. That's the beauty of comics, folks. Anything can happen. So there you have it. That's our kind of top 5 Hulk stories. Actually, I think we ended up with 5 because we threw in Future Imperfect and the end. Do you have a favorite Hulk story? If so, what is it? Did we leave off your favorite Hulk story? Let us know in the comments. Also, you responded loud and clear about the Google Hangouts, so we're going to try and find a way to make that work. Summertime is kind of a tricky time to make that happen, but we're going to come up with a at least one-time thing where we can get up to 15 of you or 13 of you to log on with us, and we'll chat about that week's comics. So stay tuned for that. We'll mention it in an upcoming video and on Twitter and Facebook and that sort of thing. So thank you for the feedback. We always appreciate it, and we'll see you next week.